There's my double chin. Alrighty. Whiteboard time. This is going to be I'm going to show my work, like the teacher gets you to do. Right, so we have kingdoms, lots of kingdoms. We have the King of England. This is really simplified as well. We have Magna Carta here. And this is, if told from, say, if Anthony Albanese was to tell this story, he'd be like, well, the kings were evil, they ruled with an iron fist and everyone was slaves, and then basically some people got together, did Magna Carta, we developed the political system in the Western world, in England, which his government stems from, and then we just had progress. That's the Anthony Albanese story. Mine is basically, I'll admit to, yes, we had progress, and the progress led us, so say we're here, this is Anthony Albanese's wet dream, where he's the Prime Minister, and we have all this progress from Magna Carta. I would posit that this position right here, the only thing that we have in this is awareness of how good it was down here. And we have a bunch of technological advances that we cannot know whether they would have come faster, slower, come at all, we don't know, down here. And so this monstrosity government now makes up a ridiculous portion of something that wasn't needed down here. People down here were very self-autonomous. You know, I suppose if you have aspirations to be some type of weirdly 7-letter long anagram position in some entity known as whatever, then yeah, you will love that system because you are just administration for this. But if you want to just live, have a healthy family, you want to educate yourself, you want to provide for your own needs, you want to have autonomy over your own life. We were so much better down here. And the reason is that government now rules over in a way that makes down here. Was it King John? Look like a fucking kindergarten teacher. We've got full 360-degree encapsulation in their system. All of this, the last 3 years, is just so I can not be a human. I have to do all this talking so I can be a human. And that's because they had to do all this talking to explain their importance in our lives. And I don't see it. Because the difference of the feudal system, I'm not saying to go back to a feudal system, but I'm saying the one difference is these people say, all right, we have to have an election and we have to vote. They're giving us 2 fucking morons to vote for. That's not how it worked in the feudal system. Yeah, we had a king, and then we had an order system below the king that could at different levels oppose the king at different levels. In fact, that's exactly what happened in Magna Carta. A bunch of those noble people got together and said, listen, John, settle the fuck down. And this is what government is attempting to say that they're doing, and they're not doing it. They're building their own kingdom. The systems of order below, some of them were established. Look, they were. And it wasn't completely fair. But if you look at I think it's Plato, his projections for what it would be that people would autonomously rise up to defend those below them, and then those below them would have opportunity to put them in. But in this system, it's not, because everyone is falling into the assumption that government is an absolute, and it's not. It's an absolute by their own verbiage, by their own system, by their own propaganda, by their own projection into your families and into your individual lives. In a way that would make John fucking squirm around in his chair. Be like, oh, I didn't think I could bloody get that much bloody control. So the only way to do this is the way that it's been done before. This is Magna Carta, the sequel. Every individual now who's at the top speaking their voice, give them your, like, not the praise, not worship, give them your consent to stand on your behalf, not within this system. Because this system is in opposition to the king. They're playing tennis. The king and the government are playing tennis, and they have been for however many 100 years it's been since Magna Carta. But because of this trend, because of this continuous propaganda campaign that look at the progress we're making, we're lifting people out of poverty. No, that was the technological progress of humanity. That had nothing to do with government. And in fact, government slows it down at every opportunity they can get. Rather than educating our youth to actually be critical thinkers, to work on things, to oppose systems, to build alternatives. They're the umpires that keep everyone in the system for the powers that be. It's all umpiring. If this was an AFL game, it'd be unwatchable. Completely unwatchable at the moment, the way that the government is running. Just remember, it's the king playing tennis with the government. Why do you have to send your kids to school? Because the government says so. And if they're inadequately teaching your children, then they may as well be clobbing them on the back of the head with a fucking hammer to retard children's growth and education. That's what that is. When people hear about lobotomies of the past, they squirm and they go, oh, this is horrific. I'm so glad we've come further than that. Yet you look at the same individuals, even the Kennedy family. JFK, he was a pretty well-spoken, pretty well-educated guy, yet his sister was clobbered in the head with an ice pick. Don't ever believe that these horrific things can just be emergent and existent in our system, because they always have been. What I'm saying in this is that I think this is the point where we build this team up. It's not because of the king. As I said before, the king floats up on the self-appointed order that emerges below him. There aren't any elections. There's just a knowing. Any group of men will know, if you leave them together for 2 hours, who's going to represent them if need be in whatever particular battle. If it was a physical battle and there was, say, Conor McGregor there, I'm going to send Conor out to fucking fight. But we're not in a physical battle. We're in a battle of creating an environment that is impervious to criticism, that has been created around us from our birth. We weren't warned. We weren't said, oh, look, we're going to build the fence around you and you're not going to be able to get out. And by the time you start realising, it's going to be too late. And then you're going to be in opposition with us from inside the fence. And I'm like, fuck off. Fuck off. If there's one fence around anyone in this fucking country, it's the government. You're in the buildings we built. You're fenced in. You're exposed. So start talking. I didn't have to fucking poke my head above the parapet and start fucking sending questions at you. You did. You elected yourselves to represent us. Now start explaining the giant holes in the system that you are benefiting from. When at the end of the day, all that you're supposed to be doing is having a little battle with the king and the powers that be. But these powers that be, they're business powers. They're not noble powers, they're not historical families. You've assumed that money was how this system worked. You've assumed that under King John, that money and financial means was what was keeping that afloat, and it never has been. And so you've allied with those throwing money around within our country and around the world, and you've built an oligarchy. And you've supported an oligarchy. And you've failed to silence the actual people in the country that are here to represent the actual foundation of the country. So you'd better bloody get good at answering some of these questions. You may think when you speak to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, 5, 6 press cameras at a press conference that you are, in fact, the Prime Minister, the lead representative of this country. But do not forget that there is millions of cameras around you, floating around, all access to this web that has you completely surrounded, has you completely captured, that will be educated to project this type of criticism at the system that you suppose is better. It's not better. In fact, it's so bad that I reject entirely the whole thing. And I established a kingdom under a playing card this morning with no benefits, no army, nothing. Just hey, if you've got a playing card that says Atlanta's in your pocket and you get fucked on by Anthony Albanese's government, I will come to your rescue. And as we build up our own system, we will continuously come to your rescue against your own government with nothing more than a playing card. Because this is a better representation of what was going on down here before Magna Carta, before the whole thing started. Now, perhaps if down here, if we had phones, we had the internet, we had Facebook, we had Instagram, we had the ability to speak better and distribute better, because all it was distribution. The people that were wealthy and powerful could distribute better, and they could project a image of themselves and their superiority that had to be, it was too much. You're failing to do that at the bare minimum. So this is actually where we are. The Australian federal government is against and has to respond to a kingdom that was started with someone's broken phone, and the only mark needed to enter as a citizen of this is a playing card in your wallet or in your phone. Because what I'm basically saying is it is an absolute advantage to be born as a citizen under the Australian federal government system right now. From birth, you are disadvantaged beyond someone who just somehow, I don't know, like a little baby Moses washed up on our shores, would have a greater chance of success than any single person born into this system right now. And I'd say that's a pretty good time to start having a debate and an argument. Your system doesn't help us. It hinders us at every point, provably. And obviously not to appease some type of royal class system, because in my debate, you are holding my king hostage in his own kingdom. Say hi to the Pope for me.